Hey, this is Kahja Elliott, Bronx born and raised, ATL made, Bay Area becoming, and this is the As Told By podcast. All right, we're back this week with a new episode of the As Told By podcast. I am coming to you this week from beautiful, sunny, warm Calistoga, California, at the Four Seasons Resort in Napa. And I am here talking to Rogelio Garcia, currently serving as the Executive Chef at Auro, Calistoga's only Michelin Star rated restaurant located at the Four Seasons Resort in Napa Valley. Rogelio was a finalist for a James Beard Award in the Best Chef California category. He's also a season 15 alum of Bravo's Top Chef and is the upcoming author of Convivir, Modern Mexican Cooking in California's Wine Country. So welcome to the As Told By podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thanks for, being here. I just, appreciate it. I know it's a long drive from Oakland, but thank you.
Worst things I could be doing on a Friday than driving up to
the wine country.
Wine country. I'll take it if that's the best I could get. Yeah. You and I met recently completely by happenstance at the James Beard Awards in the lobby of the Lyric Opera House in Chicago. So let me set the stage a little bit. It was my first time going to James Beard. I had gone to the Media Awards on Saturday. It was now Monday, and it was time for the Chef and Restaurant Awards. I had no idea what to expect because I had never been, so I thought, well, let me get there early just so I'm not in like a rush and a crush trying to get myself together. So I get there early, and I'm standing down in the main level, which is beautiful, high ceilings, gilded, gold, people in fancy clothes, and I'm standing there really like off to the side, just really almost having a how did I get here moment. And you were standing in the lobby as well. And we just happened to end up standing there together and we started talking. And initially, I was not familiar with who you were. But when I said I had been visiting from the Bay, and then you knew quite a few people who were from the Bay as well. So Tanya Holland and Tufu and Nelson Garcia and those folks. And so, like I like to do, I did my research. And I was like, I had no clue that, I had been in the presence of someone who had a really full culinary career. So I'm so glad that we ran into each other completely by accident.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I had many of those moments at the ceremony. Mm-hmm. Well, for one, I felt like I came in too early. Like I thought I was supposed to be there at 3:30, and I was, and everybody started kind of trickling in. So I was able to, take the photo at the, James Beard wall. Mm-hmm. Really talk to some of the nominees, and then take those moments of like, wow, I'm actually here as a nominee. And a funny story, the first interaction I ever had with James Beard was about 10 years ago, where I did a dinner where I was representing Napa at the Big Apple, and I took my family, and we cooked for about 80 guests at the house. Mm-hmm. And we cooked. I take all the help, all the cooks, chefs, and we pretty much do a small speech. Everybody claps, and then I say, guys, I really want to thank my mother, and it was her birthday. Mm-hmm. And I felt very proud to have her on my side, on my corner at that moment, because for me, I felt like I won a James Beard Award in that moment. Just being in New York City, being a young chef, trying to find myself, and when I was at the ceremony, it reminded me of that moment of my first time in New York City cooking in the Big Apple for for the James Beard Foundation. And
it's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, I'm grateful, to be honest. Super, super grateful.
Yeah. Big and proud mama moment.
Yeah.
To be in New York with your son doing it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I know that you're born in Mexico City, and so I'm sure those influences play a big part in your cooking style. But you were also raised in LA before moving to Northern California, Napa, where you grew up. And with each of those being so distinctly different, what do you think you've held on to from each of those regional approaches to food?
Yeah, so my mother's a great cook. My grandmother was probably the closest to a chef. So she was a cafeteria clerk. So she would have to have a menu every day of the week, and my mother kind of took that approach. And my mother's a nurse, but she's a great cook, and so we kind of instilled that in me. Worked hard, single mother. We came in the States when I was 2 years old. Spend my early years in Los Angeles. It was the 90s, so but I think my mother wanted to leave that region and find something else for her son, her daughter, and her and my brother. And so had uncles and aunts that lived in Northern California, either working in the fields or in restaurants. They would always tell my mother, "Hey, you need to come up. You need to leave LA and come up. It's beautiful. Your son can get a job." I was still in high school, and we did. We moved up, and but I think I didn't know food, like really know food, until I came here at 15 and started my first job as a dishwasher, and I fell in love with it.
You fell in love with it from the dishwasher start.
From the dishwasher start, I think it was the grind. I think it was like I wanna put the work in. And I want it to have like a positive outcome. Like I wanted to feel like I don't know if it was, I don't know. I just think I love working, and the camaraderie, being part of a team, expressing yourself through food, the creativity, all that stuff, the ingredients. I love to eat. I love food.
Me too.
Yeah. And I think it's, but before I even thought about becoming a chef, I took acting classes in high school. Okay. So I took drama, acting classes. So I thought I wanted to do that. I was like, I did a little bit of play here. We used to record ourselves and then look at ourselves in the camera. And I was like, geez, like how uncomfortable. And so Then I started taking it serious. I started to read books. I started to learn about, the high profile chefs, restaurants. And I was like, wow, like this is pretty cool. Like you can do all this stuff with food and then you can pretty much represent, who you are, what you grew up with, but more of a fine dining twist. I've always loved fine dining. I've always loved that attention to detail, that the way that it falls on a tasting menu, the sequence, the little surprise courses, maybe a card for the guest that says happy birthday. Those small touches for me have always been, I don't know, something that I always kind of wake up every morning to do for the guest, but also having a strong team and building a strong team.
Yeah, so. I met some of the team on the way in here, so it looks like y'all have a really cohesive, good thing going.
Yeah, they're incredible. When we opened the restaurant, most of them didn't come from fine dining. They wanted to learn. They wanted to do fine dining at some point, and I was like, "Come on, guys, do you want to be part of this team?" It's kind of recruiting, and man, I'm so proud of them. They've done such an amazing job. To the accomplishments that, and I humbly say this, that we're able to, do and people that that we meet every day, the guests. It's been such an amazing journey, to be honest. The support from the community, the winemakers, the collaborating chefs in the valley, purveyors. I mean, you name it. And, there's more people than just the people that actually work in the restaurant to make it successful. And I'm truly, truly grateful.
Yep. Good thing going here.
Yeah.
And the property is beautiful. I'll share some pictures, y'all, later. Fun fact, in my research in preparation for the interview, I happened to stumble onto your talk at Google that you did. So fun fact for you, in my day job, I work there. So I happened to find that completely by accident. But, I watched it, and I know you talked about your early days of splitting time between being a high school student and what sounded like full-time restaurant work, and then also becoming a parent at a young age, which we have that in common. You and I too, me splitting my time between being a young parent and going to school, in my case. What was it like to have a foot in these very different roles at the same time?
Well, wow. If I think, I mean, I don't know how I did it, to be honest. I mean, I didn't. My mother was a single mother, right? So I was trying to be a father when I never really had a good image, I guess, growing up, like of a father or what that looked like, even a male figure. And here I am at 19 with two boys, right? And my mother has always supported. She's always given me advice. I remember when I found out that his mother was pregnant, I told myself, no matter what happens, I want to be in their life. Like I look myself in the mirror and say, I'm gonna be in their life, and that is it. So I'm gonna do both. Like I'm going to
Work it out.
and support and do the best that I can. And how to do both? I think it takes a lot of work, a lot of patience. But there's no true answer. I mean, I think I made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. Always assessing like, what could I have done better. But for me, the biggest thing is to keep them involved with what I do.
Yeah.
And know that like, daddy's always going to be there for you, and he's always going to have your back. And I just want them to live a happy, successful life. The woman, because they're two boys, so Daniel and Christian. My son's 18 and 17.
Okay.
And
Yeah, big kids.
Big kids. I'm people ask me, you must be an inspiration for them, but I'm the one that feels inspired to have them.
Yeah.
I want them to be happy. I want them to, they're good men, good, humble men. They're going to find beautiful women that are going to make them happy. And I'm super excited for that, that next step
this.
for them,
Yes.
I want them to be, the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask. And it doesn't matter what they want to do. Whether they want to become chefs, they want to go to a 4-year college and excel and make a ton of money, or or not. But I just want them to be happy inside, because that's all that matters.
And have options.
And have options, exactly.
Right? And part of what you talked about is kind of the limit to options, which is what had it set up for you to be in high school and working, and having to split time between being in the restaurant late and having to get to school the next day. How did you balance those things?
I think my mother, the first years trying to juggle high school and work, were challenging. I mean, it was my first years as actually having a true job, and washing dishes. And, I would get home around 12:30, 1, soaking wet, washing dishes of a, 1,000 people banquet. And then, sleeping through my alarm, trying to rush through first period. And my mother's like talking to my teacher saying, "Hey, can you please let my son in?" It was kind of like, hey, we're gonna make it. But I eventually graduated high school, which I was super proud of. Having the jobs. And then I said, you know what, I'm gonna take this industry, full forward, and I want to become a chef. I want to be a chef in Napa, and I want to be the best one that I could be. So, and I just started reading cookbooks, watching YouTube videos of like Jose Andres, restaurants overseas, and just trying to take it in as much as I could.
Yeah. So, that actually brings me to my next point, because you're one in, a line of many people in the culinary industry I've been meeting and talking to who did not go to formal culinary school, right? And despite not going through that traditional path, you have gone on to cook at places that are synonymous with high-end dining experiences. So places like Commissary, places like French Laundry. What is the experience like to have to develop this very technical level of application at the same time you're doing the actual job?
Well, I would say it's a lifestyle. I think that, it's not just an 8-hour shift or a 10-hour shift. It's a true lifestyle. It's eating well. It's exercising. It's, keeping your brain always on how to improve at these places. I mean, there is no way that I could have done it if I was like at the bars drinking, because the next day is another 16-hour shift.
Yeah.
And so I try to focus, I guess. The amount of focus that it takes, it's a lot. But I felt like I wanted to be disciplined in a way. Like I wanted to be taught more so. Like I wanted to learn. I wanted to find somebody who was doing it at the highest level and just learn from them. I was a sponge. I mean, I think I'm still a sponge. I love learning every day, but at that time I wanted to learn and express myself at some point. But yeah, I think it was exciting. It was nerve-wracking.
I bet it. That the French Laundry. I bet it was nerve-wracking.
Oh man, yeah, it was exciting. But I remember my first day. I was so nervous, and I was slicing. I think it was like a radish, and I just like nicked my finger, and it's one of those cuts that like doesn't stop bleeding. My God, I was super nervous, but. I was just, it's kind of just put your head down and work. Yeah. So.
And look, the work paid off. The work paid off. Recently I interviewed Leticia Landa, the executive director for La Cocina, for an episode, and we talked about their mission of essentially transforming culture into industry. And it might not be everybody's path to open their own restaurant. So in the early days of your fine dining career, did you ever feel like there were limitations to how much of your culture you were able to bring to the industry?
I think that there wasn't limitations. I think that there was just maybe I didn't see a lot of people growing up that looked like me, that wanted to do the cuisine around me. And so I kind of went with more of a European style. And I think in the later years, I researched Mexico. I wanted to really figure out who I was, because I grew up in Northern California. I grew up in America. So my lens of cooking, it's a little bit different than somebody who grew up in Oaxaca or Mexico City. It's funny how, the separation of borders creates that now, right? So now there's not just the region that you come, what region of Mexico you come. If you're a chef, you're cooking out of that region. Now it's like, you go into America and it's a different cuisine now, because you attach, whatever you want pretty much, wine country, you name it. But it was, I guess, trying to find myself in what did I wanted to do. And so I researched it, and boy, I was super excited to the point where I started writing a cookbook, and I wanted to kind of give back to Mexico and wanted to give back to Northern California. And those are the two things I wanted to do is highlight Northern California ingredients, but the backbone was Mexico. Yeah. And so a lot of the recipes, my cookbook is called Convivir. It's not out yet. It comes out in September 17th. Okay. So I wanted to tell a little bit of the migrant story, tell a little bit of my story, and highlight wineries in Napa. And the photography is incredible. And so it's about 120 recipes, 100 photos, and it's been such a journey of 4 years to put it together. But I'm so excited to finally comes out in about 60 days.
All right, y'all heard that, September 17th. I'll make sure I include that information with the episode. But coming out of those fine dining establishments, in 2017, you landed the chance to compete in season 15 of Top Chef, which I mentioned, by the way, that particular season had a lot of Bay Area representation.
Yes.
So you were there, Chef Tu was there, Tanya Holland was there. So the Bay was definitely in the building.
Yeah.
you have to help demystify like the back end of what these shows are. So I love Chopped. Like I love all the cooking competition shows. You know, and I had not watched a season of Top Chef in a long time. So when I knew you and I would be sitting down, I actually binge watched this season in a day. I watched the entire thing, and it is a lot. Like I'm thinking back to that challenge where y'all had to do like the mushrooms and the shallots and the fillets. And I'm like, the level of technical precision that this takes to kind of, you got to do it. You got to do it right. You have to do it under the time constraints. There's cameras on you. It really does require a lot, these shows.
No, it does. I don't think it's just the cooking. I mean, if you make it on the show, you have the basics. Like you can cook. It requires, you know, the camera. It requires you to be charismatic, right? You're cooking and you have to present and you have to keep your nerves down. I mean, there's so much more. You have to be so well-rounded, and it was the first time that I ever did anything like that. Okay. And yeah, I mean, but the amount of friendships, the amount of connections and camaraderie that came out of that show. I mean, when we walked into the show, I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know none of these chefs. The other 15 chefs I've maybe recognized, but I remember standing in the line and we finally meet for the first time. But it was basically what they call it is you're on ice, so you can't say anything. So you're just looking around. You're like, this guy. Silence? Yeah, standing in silence. And then we're in this line, and I make eye contact with two David Fu, because he's from Oakland and I was in San Francisco at the time, and we kind of seen him, kind of looked familiar, and then we just kind of nod our heads, and I was like, he's got to be from the Bay. I recognize Tanya somewhat, but then you take that into the next 60 days, and we have cried, smiled, got in trouble, cooked together. I mean, you name it, and you just become best friends, to be honest.
Got to, because you can't. You're not interacting with anyone else. You can't use the phone. You're not watching TV.
Nothing.
You're probably not like on the internet. You are just immersed.
You are.
Okay.
You are.
60 days, you said.
60 days of challenges. It was first time me going to Colorado. We were in Telluride, Denver, Boulder, Aspen. We finished in Aspen. Amazing food out there. I mean, again, starstruck by meeting Padma, Tom Colicchio.
Yeah.
And just the friends, just the chefs, just what so many stories and so many memories.
Once in a lifetime experience.
It sure is.
Yeah. So I mentioned that you had done a talk at Google, which was in October 2019. And when I was watching it, one of the things that was interesting to me is that you all were having this conversation based around the experience of the food industry, having no idea what was just around the corner, right? October 2019, March, here comes COVID, and the particular impact that it would have on the restaurant industry. What do you feel like, looking back, the events of 2020 taught you about the business of restaurants, especially in a place like wine country where you can't just like quickly pivot to takeout, or you can't just throw up like an outdoor parklet and start doing that kind of business? What do you feel like that whole experience taught you?
I think how, vulnerable we are in the food industry. And there's a lot of people that depend on it. And ultimately, we can't work from home. We have to be on site, boots on the ground, cooking. And so a lot of people don't have any options but to go to work. So, I had so many friends that were left without jobs, left without any resources. It was sad. It was very, very sad. And an industry that I, been part of since I can remember. I'm 15 years old. To see it be in that state, it was a shock. And I was questioning myself, like, man, like, do I need to get a job at like UPS now? Like, is this even sustainable? Do I need to rethink my career now?
Go in a different direction.
Yeah. Because you couldn't, you had to wear a mask. I mean, there's all these things, but I think we all pushed through it, and we were, and we still are. And there's just a lot of good people in the industry. It's a ton of good people. And I think that we're gonna make it. I think I'm positive that we're gonna make it. And like I said, fine dining for me it's I enjoy it. It's giving me a lot of creative juices, and I met a lot of people, a lot of chefs, a lot of friends, a lot of guests who are supportive, and I want to continue to do it for a very, very long time.
Yeah, yeah. You talked about on our way in here that this property where you're working now, this restaurant, is almost, came about right after or right during the
Right.
time the pandemic was happening. So how has it been watching this grow with the backdrop of restaurants bouncing back from the pandemic?
It's been great. I mean, when I came in here, I wanted to, open Auro or a fine dining restaurant. Trust is adjacent to that, so that's more of the casual concept. And we pretty much cook out of the same kitchen. But again, we started small. Like, we didn't do anything. We weren't on the list of best new restaurants to open in 2022. We just opened with 4 covers, I think, our first night.
Okay.
And we were like, okay, we're gonna do 4 covers and we're gonna do them right. And the most basic things, where are you gonna put salt, and uniforms, and how are we gonna set up the stations, and like all the basic things we're trying to figure out. And then we got momentum, a little more momentum, and then we're about to hit our second year, and we've wow, it's been an amazing year. From again, made a lot of mistakes, came back and try to fix them, try to adjust. It's a brotherhood. It's a family, and so we, at times we have ups and downs, and you name it. But at the end of the day, we're one team, and I'm grateful that I'm able to. I don't know if the right word is be a leader or be the chef or be the face or whatever you name it. It's a huge responsibility, because the employees, the expectation, the guests, all that stuff. But it's what it takes. It's what it is, And I think it's when you see, my mother came to eat during the holidays, and for her to sit down, and I mean, she's seen me from getting my first dishwasher job at 15,
Wow.
filling out the applications with the HR director at my first job, because she had a she had a kind of cosign,
Yeah.
to like now sitting in this like beautiful fine dining restaurant, and
It is beautiful, y'all. It really is.
yeah, we're pretty lucky. It was such an emotional moment to have her eat in the dining room inside the kitchen, because we have 2 4-tops that you can sit inside. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been an amazing journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for people who may not be familiar, explain the difference between being a chef and an executive chef. What do you do? What don't you do?
Well, I think the lines are the same. I think it's for me it's more. I mean, the chef part, it's creating the food, being knowledgeable in the ingredients, like all that kind of technical food. I think it's more than that now. I think it's really creating a great morale atmosphere, giving people opportunities, right? Like if you growth, right? Like everybody grows, everybody has and like taking, everybody has an opinion to say, look, I think we should maybe this works better, or maybe we can go like this, because it's not just me. It's a collective. It's a collective of team, and not just in the kitchen, but the front of the house, marketing team, the rooms, the front desk, whoever initially picks up the phone and makes the reservation and puts it on, like all that stuff needs to align perfectly.
Yes.
And we all gotta be at the top, because if I cook a piece of salmon and it's perfectly cooked, but somebody's not, somebody's being rude or vice versa, it's not, everything needs to be, we all got to speak the same language, and and we all have ideas, I think we have a team that has so many ideas of how to improve, how to, they go out to eat and look at other fine dining restaurants and say, wow, like check this out, or I read this in this book, or there's a restaurant in Europe doing this. What do you think? So it's a collective of minds, and it's pretty amazing to be able to surround yourself with that much talent and that much eagerness to learn from the team. It just makes it, when you have such a common goal, it makes it so much easier to get to what you want, because we all want it at the same time.
Thing. Yeah. And so it's really being in charge, if I'm hearing you right, of curating the experience. And we talked about that. The food is amazing, but in addition to people remembering their meal, they really remember what the full experience was.
Right.
Yes.
And in the restaurant, when I walked in, I was so excited of how beautiful it looks, right? The view, even inside. And I said, we got to do a course in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So when you do that, when you dine, everybody kind of comes in and we do a small palate cleanser.
Okay.
And I'm able to, meet the guests, say thank you, kind of give a lay of the land, and explain the stations and how do we operate, and why is there a team here and a team there, what is he doing, what is he in charge of, what comes out of here, why is there so much tickets here, all that stuff. And it's very personalized. Take them around, and then that's it, like a 3-4 minute conversation. But I think for me it was important that with this restaurant that I was able to meet the guest, because usually I would be in the back behind a wall and you're just pretty much sending food out.
Yeah.
And I wanted to like meet the guests, get their names, say, happy birthday, congratulations, and that kind of stuff.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Things people remember.
Right.
Yeah. So you're based up here in Napa, in this region that is so well known for its agricultural impact on the region. And as an executive chef, what's been the importance to you of building relationships around farming and sustainability, particularly in this area where so much of the labor force is made up of people of Latin American descent?
Yeah. It's important for me to use what's here too. Like what we use. I think we use about 85 to 90%, depending on the seasons, right? Mm-hmm. And it's been people that I've made connections with when I started. Some farmers I've used for 10 years, some farmers I used longer or shorter, and some are up and coming. But it's important to use what's here. The amount of ingredients, it's incredible.
We are so spoiled here.
If you, oh my God, like you go to Chicago or you go to other cities and I say that because we have a leg up as chefs to be able to be surrounded by amazing ingredients that other regions don't have. We forget about that. Even the wine, the terroir, the amount of grapes you get here, it is very iconic. And I didn't know that. I didn't know how to appreciate that at the beginning of my career. Anything, I feel like I take it for granted,
Yeah.
But now it's like, it's truly an art to be able to have that advantage in the industry. But the relationships are critical. We work with a farmer. Her name is Linda Tenbrink, and I've been working with her for about 10 years, and she. It's pretty much comes in a big white truck, like a van, a white van. Still opens the two back doors, and we pick what we want, and then we put it in our walk-in. And I love that because there's no phone call to her. There's no, sending an email. It's like this is the pick of the day, and this is all you get. And for me, if we didn't have that resource, those beautiful ingredients, those stone fruits and heirloom tomatoes and melons, we would have to use, I don't know what, but
you'd be at the grocery store.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have those relationships and to cultivate them and to take care of them, because otherwise, you won't have them. But She's pretty incredible, and we work with many, many, many farmers and purveyors that have been their life dedication to grow either or cultivate the best caviar, best heirloom tomatoes, salmon. I mean, you name it, and it's something that we treasure at the restaurant.
Yeah. Do you ever question what gets regarded as like high end or fine dining? Because I know like a lot of times we assume that this is like some very fancy preparation,
Right,
with really high end ingredients. But like more and more, I'm starting to see that simply prepared dishes with simple quality ingredients that are reflective, particularly of a time or a place and culture,
right.
are what's starting to take center stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's almost like taking a photo of that season in that moment with the menu. I think that was the approach for me for the restaurant. It's like you're pretty much taking a photo of the figs that are available today. You're taking a photo of the plums, of the fishes that are in season, all that stuff. And then because next week could be different. It's a different photo. Maybe we don't have figs. Maybe we have plums. Maybe we don't have, Dungeness crab because it's, they're done. Maybe we're going into, wild king salmon or whatever it may be. But it is taking a photograph of that time and season in that moment. And so, we run the menu, but we tweak it every day as we go because some things are available or some things are in small batches and we only may have them for that day. And then tomorrow we have to switch because we have to find what else is available. And that's I don't say it's a challenge, but that's what we do when we want to work with what's here. Yeah. So that's it's really nice to be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now with the book coming out, Convivir.
Yeah.
How much of what people can expect when they come here to Auro will they find in the book?
Subtly. We, when I was doing the book, I mean, it took me, I was we were kind of still in the pandemic and I was researching Mexico for about maybe 2 years already, connected with my co-writer. She's incredible. She loves Mexico. She's from New York, now resides in San Francisco.
Okay.
And we started having ideas. We probably wrote for about 3 months. And then beginning of 2021, we pretty much scratched it and started over. We didn't like the direction it was going. And we hit the ground running with a new idea. And we spent about a year kind of shopping it to an agent. We finally signed with one, and then she took it and started shopping it for different publishers. And we were with her for a year. We were supposed to be with her for a year, and so we couldn't find anybody. It was such a struggle. We're getting denied, and I think it was our last week, and we were like, I don't think this is gonna work. Like we've been at it for about a year and a half, and we just don't have any luck. And an offer comes in, and we pretty much go with it. So it was, it's from New York. The publisher's from New York, but they have a branch in Petaluma. And we went at it. So we were able to get a photographer. We were able to, give it more length, more depth, talk to people, research, finally, do recipes. And so the approach is a little bit different than what we do at Auro because this is more traditional recipes. I wanted people to take the book on Sunday night and cook out of it. And Auro tends to be a little bit more fine dining. But when I say fine dining, I think it's just, I think the style is it's small dishes in 10 courses. And it's pretty much a story to tell about, like I said, like in that season. Yeah. But Convivir, it's more of recipes that I grew up cooking. I mean, I grew up cooking, and my mother, grew up cooking when I was a young kid. Some of those recipes are her recipes, so I had to go back and say, "Hey, how do you make that rice?" And obviously, she doesn't have a recipe. It was by, pinch here, tablespoon there, and so I'm with my gram scale trying to figure that out. But it's a little bit different, a little bit more of a casual approach, but stuff that I grew up eating, but it does have some similarities, and some recipes do apply to what we do here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear writing a cookbook is a super hard process. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, it's meeting the deadlines, having a good team, a foundation is extremely important. Asking questions. I mean, I was asking authors, how long do you think it's going to take? And they were like, oh, it'll take you 4 to 7 years to write. And I was like, I can crush this in like a year. There's no way I'm going to spend 4 to 7 years. 4 years later, here we are. So yeah, it definitely took a while.
It takes a minute.
Yeah.
I mentioned that interview that I did recently with La Cocina, and one of the things we mentioned was the experience of people immigrating from one country to another and not being able to recreate their familiar food customs just because of the regional differences. But more now than ever, diasporic cooking, especially associated with foods of poorer people, right, are really starting to be centered in a way that historically it just had not been viewed with the same level of prestige like French or Italian might be. Now that I think when we look at the places that are really getting praise in the industry, so Dakar, right, best in the country for West African cooking, and Cannes in Portland for Haitian cooking, and Langbaan, Thai. These are all foods that come from countries that just historically have not been associated with fine dining.
Right.
What do you think led to that changing trend in the industry?
Well, I think it's the chef. I think the credit goes to the guy that's or the woman that wants to take that as an undertaking. Like. For me, it's a responsibility too, to be able to take that and represent that. It's such a beautiful thing. I think for me, Mexico, trying to highlight Mexico and it's exciting as well because geographically, like it's, we're right here. So obviously you get more Mexican restaurants because we're next door, right?
Yeah.
But I want to say 3 years ago, I was like, I want to take a break from Europe and I want to, I was researching Mexico at the time and I started researching Ghana. And so I remember going buying books and a friend of mine, I asked her, hey, do you know anybody in the Bay Area that cooks, food from Ghana? And so I met a young lady. And we had a conversation, and I was like, "Hey, can you explain to me what are the traditional, dishes, stuff like that?" To a point, and I said, what's a good restaurant to go? And she sent me to San Mateo. So I went to San Mateo, and I was eating fufu, and I was trying to make fufu at home. I was just so into it, because I think you don't see that here, and I was like, wow, this is such a beautiful cuisine. Something that unless I go to Ghana and experience it. Yeah. But it was quite impressive to just completely, do something that I wasn't comfortable with. I didn't know anything, and definitely learned a lot. But I think that curiosity has always brought me to the food, to not just the food, but the cultures, learning about the cultures, learning about, what they have, and it reflects on the food that they cook. That's all they had, stews and all that stuff. And so, it's I definitely learned a lot, but I think that the credit definitely goes to the chefs. They're pushing for more awareness of that cuisine, that country, and they should be very proud. Yeah. Very, very proud.
Very proud. I plan on hitting all of those up.
Yes.
At some point, I'm getting to all of those.
Yes.
We talk so much about fine dining and ingredients, and, of course, we're spoiled with all there is to be had. But even driving up here through like the little downtown main street, there's just
Yeah.
so many small mom and pop places, burgers, barbecue I saw on the way up.
Right.
You know, with access to so much high-end, high-quality food, what's some junk food that you like to have?
Oh, junk food. Oh man. I cook a lot at home. So
Do you really?
I do almost every night.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, because well, first of all, there's nothing open here. So
It's not a late night town.
it's not a late night town.
No.
And so you have to make sure your fridge is stocked. That's for sure. But I mean, every so often, like I'll eat a hamburger. I'm not a burger, pizza, like kind of fast food. But every so often, I'll have a burger. I'll have maybe a pizza, stuff like that. So I still enjoy that kind of stuff. But tacos. There is a taco truck in Napa that does a great job. So I'll definitely spoil myself with good food.
Yeah. I refuse now. I'm from the East Coast originally, so I've been in the Bay for 10 years now, but tacos outside of the Bay. I haven't been to SoCal to have tacos
Really?
yet, so I don't know if, the Bay or LA has better tacos, but I know just like California as a whole, when I go to have tacos or any Asian cuisine
Yeah.
anywhere outside of California, I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. It's
hard comparison.
Competition is fierce here. Like you have to be on your A game here. It's there's so much good food here. So much good food.
We all know food is an outlet for creative expression. What are you expressing through food at this point in your career?
I think I'm trying to still find myself in a way. I do want to express Mexico more, and give it a lens of Northern California. I think that it almost goes into, like I was saying earlier, the separation of borders, right? Like my mother coming here, and if I were to still become a chef in Mexico, I would probably cook completely different, just based on the different approach or more traditional approach from Mexico. But since I grew up in Northern California, still is the same me, but just the environment is different. And I think that I want to be able to represent this area as a Mexican chef, cooking Mexican food, with what I think is Mexican food from Northern California.
Yeah.
I think that's the goal. Yeah.
Well, shout out to you and other chefs doing these pockets, around the country of trying to introduce cultures and foodways into different places. I just read this morning that Eric Williams and the team from Virtue are opening a Mexican cocktail bar.
Wow.
Out there in Chicago. I think it's called Cantina Rose. Forgive me if I'm calling the name wrong, but it's so exciting to see these things and concepts that are reflective of cultures popping up in different places. So it's been so great to come and sit down and talk with you today. I'm so glad we met in that lobby, and good to see you again. I absolutely will have to come back up here and enjoy a meal.
Thank you. Yeah, my house is always your house.
Okay.
So yeah, thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, and then remind people again about the book and when and where they'll be able to find it.
So Convivir, Modern Mexican Cooking in California's Wine Country. It's available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Out on September 17th. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'll be doing a book tour as well. So a lot of pop-ups in the Bay Area, but then we'll probably be in the East Coast, Midwest, and just we're trying to get a calendar together to see what we're going to be doing. But I'm super excited for the book and to share it. There's a lot of stories about myself and that I never thought that I would share. Nothing, just very personal, and I was debating whether I should do it or not, and they were like, just do it. You need people that, people are going to connect, and you're going to inspire somebody, and just put them there.
That's what it is.
So I'm so excited, and if you ever find yourself in Calistoga, Auro restaurant in Calistoga, open 4 nights, and everybody's welcome. Thanks for having me. Really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It is a gorgeous restaurant. Y'all know I will post pictures. Thank you so much. If you all want to keep up with me in between episodes, you can find me on Instagram at Hey Kay in the Bay. That has been this week's episode of the As Told By podcast. See you on the next one.